guys, it's Kelly Lativola here, and I'm back with another video for Tonic Studios. Today we are going to be doing a glitter gradient with some alcohol marker coloring. I just really like it's a super simple technique that looks like you spent a ton of time on it. This is the say this 3 times fast, petal pattern stencil. Sammy Takes It Easy is the stamp set we're going to use, and the Enjoy die. We're also going to be using this Moonstone glitter paste from Nuvo, which honestly is my favorite color. I know it's clear. It matches everything. And some Distress Oxide inks. So I chose a Salty Ocean, Mowed Lawn, and Fossilized Amber because I wanted this feeling of like this sloth being in like the trees, or just like laying down and taking this nap. And I also wanted it to be, I didn't want a full background, so I knew I was going to put my sloth on the right hand side, so that's where I decided to concentrate the majority of my color. I am lightening up the color considerably as it moves towards the left hand side. So I started with the Salty Ocean, and then I'm going to move to the green and then to the yellow. I'm always starting off of the page, making those circular movements, but always starting off the page, because if you start on the page, you're going to end up with a circle shape from the ink blender, or square if you have the old ones. I still have some of those. And they are easier to blend out if you are using Distress Oxides, but even then, sometimes it's hard to get it perfect if, well, perfect is, that's something that's a unicorn, guys. But it's hard to get it the best it could be if you don't start off of the page. That's why you always see, like, around my image, or around my cardstock, it's always super messy because I always start off the page. So I like to go over it twice. So I went from blue to green to yellow, and now I will go from yellow to green to blue, to just really saturate that color and make sure that I have a good blend and something that I'm happy with. Now, if you watch my videos normally, at this juncture, I would usually like spatter on some clean water or some Perfect Pearls, but instead, I'm going to use glitter paste. So I'm just going to hold the stencil in place here, and I'm going to use a little spatula, and I'm going to just plaster it on. I'm going to spread out the little bit that I'm picking up as far as I can. And then it's going to leave an uneven edge. All of those little petals and the flowers will not be filled in, but I don't want them to be, because as the color drops off, gets lighter, and becomes white, I want the glitter to follow the same type of pattern. You can tape these down to your work surface, but I didn't have any issue just holding it in place. It worked for me, so I'm going to spread that all out and get a nice smooth even coat. I seem to be missing some, like I had some bald areas in the center, so I just went over that. And then you don't want to let this dry on your tools. So your stencil or your spatula, you want to wash it off right away. But when you lift it up, it looks amazing. It's all glitter. It's all glitter, guys. Glitter everywhere. Like, this couldn't make me more happy. Plus, because it traps that Distress Oxide, it makes it much bolder. It makes your blend look better. It's so cool. So here I'm working with just Copic Safe ink, or alcohol-based ink. I'm going to be using Nuvo markers, and I'm stamping out my little sloth. This little sloth is taking a nap. I imagine in my head that this sloth is a mom, and she is just run ragged, because honestly, that's how I feel right now. That's just how I feel right now. So I am going to mask my little sloth there. You can see I like Eclipse masking paper, or what's the other one? The 3M Post-it note. I do have some that I have here that I'm going to try, but those are kind of like my go-tos. And I'm pretty much just going to create this one focal point because I want to cut it out. So I want to keep everything super tight. And I'm going to add some flowers and some leaves for some color, and then to boost up bulk up the focal point, so that it's all one piece. So I do have masks for these as well. I went back and forth about kind of where to stamp this other flower. Sometimes You know, when you're doing the layout, I'm looking for that like visual triangle, where, you know, where do I want my pink flowers to be. I ended up adding 2 up front and 1 in the back, and then reversing it for the leaves. So I did 2 leaves in the back, pretty much because I was going to use that large leaf to mask where the branch cuts off. And then I did 1 leaf up front. So I've got 2 pinks on my left, 1 on my right, 2 greens on my right, 1 on my left. And that will balance very nicely. I didn't really leave any room for there to be gaps in between that I couldn't cut out. And I did end up having to trim off a little bit of the mask for the branch so that I could fit my leaf where I wanted it to go. So, like I said, I am going to be fussy cutting this out. That's why I want it to be 1 solid piece. That just makes my job easier with the fussy cutting. And while they do sell dies out of the Tonic UK store, this isn't something that, because it's all 1 layer, you wouldn't be able to use the dies for this. If you tried to use like the leaf dye, you'd cut through the sloth. I hope that makes sense. So I picked out some browns and 1 gray. And I'm going to use that to do my coloring of the sloth. Now, I did not know all of the colors that sloths were. Because there's some things, like elephants, okay? Elephants don't really come in any other color than gray. You're pretty safe just picking out any gray, coloring your elephant. But I'm not that familiar with sloths. So I had to look up and see what color Sammy would be, because I wasn't sure. So it was really like more of a warm gray, and I wanted to, I guess, make sure I captured kind of that warmth, and the face was more brown. They have like that little mask over their eyes. So I filled in the whole thing with my lightest color, and then I'm going to go back in and start adding my shading. I didn't want the shading around the face to be too dark. So I'm adding it where the arm is behind. So the arm that kind of like her, I'm calling her because I told you I imagined she was a mother. Where her head's kind of resting on it. Then where the belly is, that would be darker. Behind her on like kind of like her booty, back of her arm, that's all going to be darker. If the sun is shining from the top right, which is typically the light source that I use, then her whole back, the tops of her thighs, and like the top of her head is going to be the lightest parts. The darkest parts will be like where her belly's tucked under and her arm is tucked underneath her head. So those are just the colors that I am adding. Once I'm done getting all of the shadows in, blending all of that out, lightest to darkest, darkest to lightest, you know how we roll, I'm going to go over it with that 1 gray marker you saw. And the reason I'm going to do that is because it's going to change the pigment of the sloth. So that way it will make it a little bit more of a warmish gray color. It's also going to differentiate it from the branch, which I'm going to color with the same browns. So color glazing is something that you can absolutely use and use to your benefit. If you don't own a lot of markers, if you don't own a lot of alcohol markers and you're trying to make your colors, go as far as possible, this is something that you can do to get different variations of those colors. And then I felt like I lost a little bit of the shading, in the darkest parts, so I just went back in with the darkest marker. I'm going to do the same thing here with the branch. I tried to start with the darkest. Isn't that silly? Because we all know me, and we know I can't do that. Kelly can't start with the darkest marker. Then everything will be dark. All of it will be dark. There will be no highlights whatsoever. So I'm going to do that, and then this is just going to be darker where they're laying on top of it, and darker where that leaf covers it at the back edge. We've talked about this recently, and while you're watching this, I'm going to be on vacation. But tonight is actually my night to prep for vacation. I am T-minus 14 hours to go time, and I have packed not a single thing. Why have I not packed a single thing? I have not packed a single thing because, and let me just apologize to you for like the lull that's going on here. I was looking for my markers, so sorry about that. So I've not picked a single thing because for some reason I was literally out of my mind Like, I had just complete out of body experience and decided it would be a good idea to work right up until the day I left. Why, Kelly? Why? Why do you do this to yourself? They say that procrastinators, or people that run late are perpetually positive people. We're constantly optimistic, and we always think we have more time than we do. And that's a wonderful, wonderful way to look at things, because I am always late. I'm always last minute. I'm always just running, I will sometimes not even fashionably late, guys. I'm just going to own it. Sometimes not even fashionably late. And typically, I do terrible on day shift. So when I work day shift, I never get into a rhythm. My regular work, my full-time job alternates from day shift one week to afternoon shift the next week. So I can never really get used to it. And that means that the week that I'm on day shift and I'm having to get up super early, I don't get anything done because I am so exhausted. I look like Sammy the entire week. Like, I get off, everybody's like, oh, you get off work at, 3 o'clock and then you have the rest of the day. And I'm like, to do what? Sleep? Because I'm so exhausted by the time I leave work that I cannot even fathom the idea of coming home and doing anything without catching a 20-minute nap. Like, I could not survive without a nap. I don't understand how the rest of the world is doing it. And, like, I take after my mama. I know that. My mom is a night person. She worked day shift for years. But then once she retired, she went back to being a night person. And I'm like, I need to find a new job where I can go back to working night shift and I can be a happy person. Because day shift, while it is nice to leave while the sun is still up in the sky, I am, like I said, just tired. I'm just so tired. Of doing the things. So, like, then you work all day and you come home and maybe you throw in a, laundry, you clean something that needs to be cleaned, you make dinner, you do the dishes, you do anything else that, you're responsible for, make the lunches, do the bath time, all of those things. And then finally you get some time to yourself, but you can't even go to bed because it's the only time you've had to yourself all day long. So then you end up staying later than maybe you normally should have, just so you can have some peace and quiet. It's lovely. I mean, it really is. He's wonderful, but the tiredness is sometimes just very overwhelming. So here, you guys know I like to outline my images. I'm trying something new. They're getting rid of my EK Success journaling pens, and so I thought that I would try these brushed script pens from Nuvo. They have a bunch of different colors. This set that this one came out of is called the Essential set, and it is gray, brown, and black. And it's water-based. So it works really well with alcohol markers. So I thought, well, I will give it a try. There was a little bit of a learning curve with the tip of it because it's not firm. It's meant for, like, handwriting, brush script, calligraphy, those things. But I was pleasantly surprised. I actually really enjoyed using it. Plus, the side benefit of that is, after I'm done doing my fussy cutting, which is what I'm going to do here. If you aren't familiar with fussy cutting, I recommend holding it in your cutting with your dominant hand. So for me, I'm right hand dominant. I use the scissors there. I keep my scissors upright, and then with my non-dominant hand, or for me, my left, I turn the paper. And this usually will give a much smoother cut than moving your scissors to cut the paper. This is why it was so important to me to keep that design super tight, so I didn't have to worry about all of the little ins and outs or pieces that I might have to get out, like a craft knife to cut out of. I wanted to just be able to go around the outline and move on with my life. The other thing that will give you a much smoother look with fussy cutting is using a water-based marker to go around the outside edge. So typically the one I reach for is Memento Tuxedo Black. However, because this brush script pen from Nuvo is water-based, I can actually use that. So it's kind of like a 2-for-1. I can outline my image, and then I don't even have to find a new pen or purchase a new pen to outline my image. So that's kind of cool. But like I said, there was a little bit of a learning curve with the tip because I'm using it for something that I think it's not designed for, but it did work really well. So then I'm just, like I said, going to go through and outline all of that. And then we're going to move on to building the actual card, because all of this time it's been drying. I'm going to do the rest of the sentiment. So I used the Enjoy die, and I cut out the halo part in white and the actual word in black. And then to finish that off, I am going to do some heat embossing. This is also from the Sammy Takes a Break set, and it says, you deserve it. So the whole card sentiment will read, enjoy, you deserve it. Because honestly, you do. Be honest with yourself. Treat yourself. Self-care. All that. It's important. So I'm going to do that. This is just white embossing powder. I stamped in, what did I stamp in? Clear sticky embossing powder. And then I'm just going to heat set that until it's smooth. I'm going to trim that down into a label. Then I'm going to take this Enjoy. I'm going to adhere this flat to the halo portion. I mean, can you just see that glitter? Can you just see the glitter in the background? And I know it's hard to see the pattern on the video, but if you head over to the blog, there are still shots where you can see how intricate that pattern is, and it looks amazing. It looks amazing in real life. Like, I totally love it because I love all the glittery things. So now I'm going to pop everything up on foam tape. There's just going to be copious amounts of foam tape here, so that my little sleepy sloth. There's a lot of alliteration going on in this video. The petal pattern, sleepy sloth. There's a lot of things going on with words, and my enunciation is not top notch. I'm just going to go ahead and own that. So I'm going to put foam tape on all of these because I want it to be popped up from the background. I did not have any issues whatsoever with this adhering to my glitter background once it was dry. And then I really like the way the Enjoy just kind of pops off of the background with that black and white, giving it that contrast. So once I know where that is going, where the Enjoy is going, I needed to double check for the foam tape. Then I can see, like, I just set it there so I could see where the rest of the sentiment would fit in. I adhered that to the die cut with glue, and then I'm just going to peel off all the little parts of the foam tape and adhere it as one piece. That seemed much easier to me than trying to get them right as two different pieces. So I'm just going to tuck that right underneath my little see, I can't even do it again. Sleepy sloth. Anyway, and then put that on there. Apparently I cut it off. My apologies. But I did hit the flowers with a little bit of shimmer as well. And then that's it. That's the whole card. So thank you guys so much for joining me. I hope that you will give this a try, and I will catch you on the next video. Bye.